So, in terms of your experience as an independent pharmacy manager and then transition to becoming a telepharmacist, how different is that? Because as a manager, you do a little bit more different duties, like more, well, there's some component working, but there's administration, then transition yourself into a more clinical role, I suppose, working remote orders and verifying, talk with physicians. How's does that transition working out for you?
So at first it was, an uphill battle for a little bit, but like I said, I definitely try to make sure that I keep myself up to date and I do a lot of self-study, so that helped. But you are correct. When I was in the independent pharmacy manager position, there was some administration stuff I had to constantly take care of. So there was, I had to make sure the business was profitable. We're a tiny little pharmacy, so I constantly was running reports to make sure that, hey, how much are we making per prescription? Which medications were losses? Do we need to switch manufacturers? Do we need to switch wholesalers? It's just stuff like that that I don't have to do as much now. And of course, then since it's at the independent pharmacy position, I also took on that slight ambulatory care role where I also had to organize projects, such as the immunization clinics and things like that. So there was all of that too. But in telepharmacy, it's a little different. I don't take care of all that administrative stuff as much. I actually, it's interesting because we actually support a lot of different hospitals, and we tend to support them during the night shifts, and we support them during the weekends. So most of the time when the staff pharmacy is off, right? So during holidays. And because of that, we actually support more than one hospital at a time. Each pharmacist can support anywhere from like 5 to 10 hospitals. Or, it depends on volume. So they base it off of volume. Some hospitals are slower than others during that nighttime or something like that, or during the weekends. So some of the admin stuff I do take care of is a reference library. So it's equivalent to a policies and procedures of a hospital. So we constantly have to every quarter make sure it's up to date so that we're implementing and following what the hospital prefers. And so, because if you think about it, someone managing 6 to 10 hospitals at a time, they won't remember, the policies and procedures for this 10 hospitals, right? So we're constantly doing control, find, control, find. And so we need to make sure that all of these policies and all these procedures are up to date, because if it's not accurate, then I'm entering a wrong start date or stop time or something like that, then, we'll get a variance and people are unhappy. So that would be my admin, you know, part of it.
Part of it. Got you.
Mhm.
Can you go into how did you pick which company you go for telepharmacy? I'm not very familiar with it, so like how did you decide which company you apply for, and then it sounds like you have how many licenses you have to get.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm getting close to getting licensed to anywhere between a quarter to half the country now. So that's how many state licenses I have. They cover for most of it, so yay. They also cover for, going there to take the test, driving there, driving back, all that stuff. So they do cover for the study time too, but it's like a flat rate, so if you take more than I think 8 hours to study for it, then they won't cover for over the 8 hours.
You
So
only pay for 8 hours, that's it?
that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
No. Okay. You need at least 2 weeks or three. I don't know. I guess I'm not smart enough.
No, no. I mean, they cover for that, but I mean, you can take more to study for that. Like they'll tell me, for example, hey, actually, this is what happened recently. They wanted me to get licensed in Louisiana and Alabama, but with the coronavirus going on, it's like Pearson View Testing Center is not going to open up its gates for me, so it's going to take months for me to actually be able to pass or, go in and take that exam. But, they'll only pay for 8 hours, even though I have 3 months or whatever to study for it.
Right.
So you do have a lot of time to study for it if you want to, a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, I bet you can have time. It's just the rate that they give you 8 hours. That seems a little bit unfair,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's to be honest.
Tears for me, tears for me.
I know it's like they only paid 8 hours, and I know you spent more than that. Like I know I did a few weeks for my Texas so.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so,
Well,
what, yes, go
but
ahead.
I mean, but still, the company, I do love the company. It's giving me a really great experience because in addition to activating orders for hospitals. I also take care of long-term care facilities too. I do the admission review, so that's where my geriatrics, certification comes in handy. So that's been pretty nice. So I do get a variety of experience. I also get mental health experience too. We take care of a few mental health hospitals. So why I chose that company or why I leaned towards doing telepharmacy was I guess this is a good segue for my business. I wanted to start a business after my independent pharmacy manager position. So I wanted a part-time or a PRN type position to supplement, the income because I'm realistic. I know my business will take a while before it starts becoming more profitable. And and then I was traveling a lot more too, uh, since you're based off of Texas, you know that I used to live in Texas and I visit a lot. I have a lot of family and friends there, and I was starting to travel there more. So I wanted something that was more flexible, traveling wise, but also more flexible time wise too.
So I'm going to go back to the telepharmacy. So I guess how many companies are there that do telepharmacy? And then if you don't mind sharing, which companies you end up going with or
Yeah, yeah.
that you recommend for folks that are interested in telepharmacy that they should go into and look.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to give a little bit of a tease. There's actually quite a few, quite a lot of remote positions out there. Just people don't know about it. I don't think people know how to hunt for it. I actually am working right now at Pipeline RX. Feel free to look them up. They're like I said, they're a great company, and they really support you. Like I said, I every now and then I would get a variance because the facility is very strict. I didn't do anything that was, clinically incorrect, or I didn't harm the patient in any way. It's just they prefer for me to put a stop time of 2,400 instead of 2,359 or something weird like that. Yeah. So we'll not go there. But what I'm trying to say is they support me. They don't like, jump down my throat. And they will support me and back me if it comes between me and the facility, so that's really nice. And then there's another remote one if people are interested in MTM. There's a lot of different MTM remote positions out there. I believe Adhere, they used to be called Farm MD. They have positions for remote pharmacists too, and it's also fairly flexible. And if anyone would like to transition between like different, pharmacy settings like this, I actually am currently collaborating with Pharmacy Career Coach right now, and I'm helping, guiding different pharmacy colleagues. So, to help them with this transition to different settings. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And then, so yes, I would definitely, if you're those interested in telepharmacy, Ross is a great person to chat about that. And then you were saying that with telepharmacy, there's a lot of holidays, nights, and weekends. So does that
Mhm.
mean that you work those hours as well, or how are you when you apply for these positions? Would they let you know what kind of hours you'd be working up front?
Yeah, so they don't really say it, at least for me, when I was applying, I didn't really see it in the job description. It was just a part-time, was all they said. And then what ended up happening was I was working every other weekend. And I started out actually working the graveyard shifts, which I haven't done in a very long time. I haven't done since I was a like pharmacy tech, so it was rough. I was drinking like three monsters and the 0 calorie ones because I cannot handle the extra calories anymore. They were quite tasty, but I was like all jittery by the end of the shift. It was ridiculous. Um, but anyways, fortunately, they were really great to me, and I think they liked me, and that when a position opened up for me to switch over to daytime, every other weekend daytime, I was able to make that switch. And I pick up, for people when they want time off. vacations, stuff like that. So that since I'm part-time, like again, it has that built-in flexibility. I'm only required to work every other weekend. And then everything else they asked me and I said, yeah, sure. Or I can't, I have other obligations.
Just like any like a normal job would be.
Mhm.
How about interacting with other colleagues and then reporting with your manager? Like, how does that work from a tele remote type of work? Like, do you feel you quote belong into the organizations, or
Mhm.
what are some well, we know some perks of being remote, but what are some challenges that you have with being a remote pharmacist?
Um, I think for me, being a remote pharmacist, the first interesting challenge I noticed was I was so used to standing all the time in all of my previous pharmacist position. I know it sounds silly, but now I sit all the time. My back's angry no matter what. But so I have to find ways to make sure I take little breaks, stand up, sit down. So that's one thing, challenge wise. As far as interactions, I know that's what your question is mainly about. I do have like, my main team that I interact with more, and some of them are located in Colorado. So I am able to interact with them. But as for, my manager, interestingly, my manager is in the Northeast area. So I've never really seen them. My manager or my regional manager for that matter. It's always